Tonight, we talk about that thing where J Warner Wallace was going to appear on a Capturing Christianity call-in show and then didn't. Also, on a much more fun note, Zod shows Dan a Christian who uses magic to prove Jesus. So I guess tonally we're all over the place tonight. This is Zadanza.
In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups. The streamers who talk about the crimes and the audience members who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories. Dun dun! And I'm doing that because Nitty gave our first pre-stream donation, which is $5, saying if you don't start the episode off with that Law and Order dun dun, I'm never watching again. So thank you, Nitty, for donating literally a minute before the show even got started. I didn't even know you could do that, but there you go.
Yeah, just a little heads up. If you give us a suggestion like that 1 minute before showtime, it's going to be really hard for us to find a sound to put it in our opening.
It's true.
Thank you, Nitty. I appreciate that.
What a time to be an American today, huh? What a day. What a day.
You know, we had one show planned for today. Some stuff happened that I just kind of wanted to talk about. And so we planned for that. And then today, I hear that something else happened. Did you ever hear rumors of anything else ever happening today?
I heard nothing. No. Don't know anything. Don't know what you're talking about at all. You mean the fact that the former fucking president of the United States has been fucking convicted for crimes? Oh, that old codger. What do you say? That old little
convict Donald Trump.
Well, you know, who knows how much prison time they'll actually give him? Probably.
I don't think he'll get any.
We'll see. But yeah, it's a great day to be an American. You know,
I personally think this is going to be the government passing one more resolution declaring that Trump's naughty and nothing really is going to happen. I don't think he's going to go to jail, and if he gets elected, he'll pardon himself and whatever. But
I just really want to hear a bunch of people saying lock him up, just all the way to the sentencing. Because wait, no, the sentencing hasn't happened. Yeah, sentencing hasn't happened yet. It was just the
sentencing is in July.
Yeah, it's in July. Yeah, so yeah, when that happens, everybody should be shouting lock him up in the streets. That'd be really funny. But anyway, this is not the Donald Trump news broadcast network. Far from it. This is Zadanza, the live Thursday night stream that happens 9:00 Central Time. I'm objectively Dan. The Dan of the Zadanza, that's Zod, prophet of, somewhere in there, the Zod in the Zadanza. And you folks at home are the Zah in the Zadanza. Everybody always says, who's the Zah? It's you. It's always been you. So Zod's cooking for me tonight. Chef Zod has prepared a fine several courses of meals tonight. We've got Christian magicians, and also Zod's getting zesty, y'all. Zesty Zod is coming out because I used to think I was the troublemaker between the two of us. Not anymore. Zod likes to stick his nose into other people's business and make posts on social media and start some riots, I'd say. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that in just a second, Zod. But before we do, LHRPG official gave $5 and said, I was literally watching one of Zod's Mike Winger reaction videos when you guys went live. By the way, love the show. Thank you so much for the donation. And a lot of Christian apologist characters might be appearing tonight. We'll see. But anyway, Zod, tell me what you got going on.
When you talked about cooking, Lester Moose mentioned a lentil meatloaf, which I have no idea what that is because I have never cooked such a thing several times in my life. Actually, I used to make lentil meatloaf a lot, and that's what that's a reference to.
Yeah. Well, I've never done that, but that sounds pretty good, actually. I would try it.
Good point. Trump cannot pardon himself from state crimes, only federal crimes. So
that's M68 Ken who gave $4.99. Thank you, M68
yes, thank you
Ken.
for the cheerful news that I was overlooking.
Yes.
And also, that's assuming that we still have a functional country with, the same laws and everything in the next couple of years. But,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to
One
be
can
a
only hope.
downer. We're here to have fun.
We're here to have fun. We're here to talk about internet drama and failed call-in show startups, all kinds of stuff. I'm excited, Zod. Zod said he's got surprises for me. He's got things he wants to show me. So Zod, give it to me. I want to see what you got.
Yeah, I want to read one comment here. I tend to rage quit. Said Zod, I've had to read so many obnoxious line comments about your video on J Warner Wallace, and it is exhausting. It was exhausting for me. Yes, I became the center of attention of a lot of negative attention on Capturing Christianity's channel. But let's just dive right into it. So, first off, this whole show is not going to be about the Capturing Christianity J Warner Wallace thing.
Yeah.
I want to address it. This gets into some territory I'm not totally at ease with for a couple reasons. Number one, this just sounds like gossip channel nonsense, at least on the surface. And it kind of is. But number one, this does involve some things about how apologists behave. Number two, I was kind of mired in this thing. And I feel like if we just showed up and did our previous show idea and didn't say anything about this, I feel like it'd just be kind of left hanging in the air. So I wanted to just talk through what happened, give my thoughts, spill the tea, as the kids these days say, and, just get it all out there. So
before we keep going, though, we got to say thanks to Punk Metal Tao, who gave $5 and said, pizza, plum wine, ice cream cake, Elden Ring videos. Now Zadanza, best way to turn 40 ever. I also was watching the Winger video prior to this. Thank you so much for the $5. And yeah, people are really liking your Mike Winger stuff. Well, that and your J Warner Wallace sort of takedown. This has been a multi-long saga with you and J Warner Wallace that has culminated into the events of tonight. Now, I have a rough idea of some things, but I'm going to be hearing a lot of this for the first time. And I've told Zod I would like to be the Judge Judy equivalent tonight to see if Zod was in the right or in the wrong in his involvement in all of this. Of course, I give Zod a lot of shit. But we all make mistakes. And if I think maybe he went too far, I'll tell him. But I know Zod. And Zod, I think you have a good heart and you're a good dude at the end of the day. So we'll see.
Yeah, I do think I made some mistakes in this whole thing and I kind of ruined some opportunities, but that is what that is. We'll get to that. And thank you, by the way, for the comments about my Winger video today. That was, I don't know how much I enjoyed it, but that was a labor of love for me because I could not believe how just utterly psychopathic Mike Winger got and the things he said about praising God while your family's going to hell. And I thought that was strange and inappropriate. And I was happy to say my piece about that. So go watch that if you feel like it. But don't leave now because we're about to talk about the thing. Earlier this week, I just have some little slides to show the main images of all this stuff. I see that, we all know that Cameron Bertuzzi started his call-in show. That's where I discovered that the Rando Catholic actually isn't a Rando Catholic, I guess. He actually is Capturing Christianity famous, whatever that's worth. So I see this on here, and this got my attention that Wallace is doing a call-in show with Cameron. Number one, it just seemed a little out of the blue. Number two, as Sergeant Skeptics said on this stream when he was subbing in for Dan, Wallace really does not like to put himself on the line and deal with people in an open forum. And so I thought this was an especially strange case, considering that, and especially considering some, I think, pretty substantial sounding questions about his credibility and the backstory he presented. And so I thought this was kind of strange. On the other hand, I also thought that maybe as some people pointed out almost immediately, this wasn't all that risky because I'm not sure that Cameron really holds that much of an open line show. I think he curates his call list pretty carefully, or I suspect. I'm not wanting to throw any, concrete accusations, but it seems like he's banned a lot of people that I know, and he tends to have friendly voices on. And I thought that might be how this went. So I posted this. I don't know if you can read this, but I just posted this community post. You can find it on my channel, my main Prophet is Odd channel. But I said that he's hosting J Warner Wallace. A lot of people have would like to ask some pointed questions about Wallace and his career. These people are so numerous that I don't think that I don't think Cameron could have a really open call-in show without a lot of these people appearing. And so if he didn't, it would be a sign that he's not really open for actual conversation with skeptics and stuff like that.
Now you did. I want to say my piece real quick because you did show me that comment earlier, and I will say that's pretty bold of you to say all this when the show hasn't even gone live yet.
Yeah.
If it were up to me, I would have waited and seen because I'm just as skeptical as you are about how everything goes. But like, we don't know what the format is, right? We don't know how it's gonna go. So I don't know. I would have waited on that. But you're an eager beaver, sir. You are ready for this because I suspect you're right, by the way, about everything here. I don't think you're wrong in your assumptions, but I'd be curious to just see it live,
Yeah. So, you think I should have held off a little bit. Turns out few people think that because I kind of pissed some people off by, I guess, showing our cards a little too early. And so what happened was all of a sudden I'm looking at Cameron's, I open up Cameron's show on my browser to get ready to listen just minutes before. And all of a sudden you see those 3 dot things by the title of the show. And I pull this up and you can see my screen here. Video has been removed by the uploader. So after my comments, I'm in the chat saying stuff too. Basically, again, warning Wallace and Cameron that skeptics are coming, which I guess apparently was a brilliant idea. And so 20 to 30 minutes before showtime, Cameron just removes the show and didn't have it. So, by the way, thank you, Zach. Super chat. I'm proud to be a Zodonite. At least I know I'm free.
Hell yeah.
Yes. We here on Zadanza are all about freedom.
Yeah. So here's the thing so far, right? Zod, you and I are not normal people. And Cameron's not a normal person. And J Warner Wallace isn't a normal person because we all have our opinions out there in the public space. And we do that willingly, right? Like it's always a choice. We don't have to do this. We do it every time. And so that puts you up to scrutiny, right? And I definitely have known people who have definitely been harassed, right? Because of stuff that they put out there, especially the women that I know. Oh my God, the DMs that pretty much every woman content creator I know, it gets to harassment. Yeah. You posting the stuff that you did, even if it's snarky, not harassment, right? You're engaging with the material, and as long as that comment section's open, you're free to post in it, right? I understand why people delete comments on their videos, and that's their choice, but he didn't have it deleted, and he had an open chat, and he said in the thumbnail he wants skeptics to call in, right? I mean, he's goading people to come in, and you're a skeptic. So you have every right to be there and give your opinion on things so far. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. So here's a couple things. Number one, I suggested that he was possibly clearing messages out of his chat because it looked like it. I was actually completely incorrect about that because, and I verified this with some other friends, the YouTube just clears out chats automatically if you're pre-stream and people are throwing things in there, it just automatically goes away. And so that's what happened with Cameron. So I said that on Twitter that it looked like he was deleting chats using a couple screenshots, and then I took that back and deleted that tweet once that had been brought to my attention. So that was a mistake on my part. I think what I was saying, I was totally within my rights to do that. And I don't think I was doing anything like wrong or harassing or anything like that. However, I do think that strategically it wasn't a good choice because, the whole point was to get Wallace on live and just make him answer some questions, whether it's about his background or how he uses police work to approach the Bible. We finally had a chance after all this time to catch him live and actually get him in some actual conversation rather than these just carefully curated presentations they likes to do. So partly thanks to me, I think we missed an opportunity to hold him up to some scrutiny that we could have. And I do feel bad about that. I feel bad on behalf of people who were ready for that. And I'm also disappointed for my own sake because I had no clue that this stream was going to go down. I didn't think that they were going to remove it because of anything we were saying. So my thinking was simply that I thought Cameron was going to hold a carefully curated show with call lists of people that he wanted Wallace to talk to and that Wallace had agreed to talk to. And I don't know this, but I suspected that Cameron is basically just holding a live stream among friends, and some of them are kind of set up to be calls. That's a little bit what it looks like. I don't know that that's the case, but that's a little bit of the feel of the show sometimes. And so
the show didn't happen, like the stream. But did Cameron give an official reason as to why?
Yeah, he did. So at first, I'll say it first. So that was my strategy, though. I thought that they were going to fly this all under the radar, and so I just wanted to put it out there. And I thought putting it out there before the show would just put pressure on them and make it look ridiculous if all of a sudden they're just having friendly callers on and none of these questions are coming up. That turns out it was a miscalculation on my part because I just didn't think they'd cancel the stream, and they did. And so, basically to put this in police terms like J Warner Wallace, I was the rookie cop who came in a little too hot and the guy lawyered up and went home.
Loose cannon.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, I'll admit when I make mistakes, and that was one of them. I think there were some other people involved who I think brought up some more substantial questions more directly. And that might have done more to scare it away, but I'm not going to lie. I think I may have contributed. We're having some questions in the chat about Michael Beverly. I just to address that real quick.
Before you get into that, why do you think that you played a big of a role in this? Why couldn't it just been any other person or them just thinking it's not a good idea? Like, why do you feel like you played such a big role in the decision for it not to happen?
I don't think it was just me, but I was pretty active in the chat asking a lot of these questions that I don't think Wallace is looking to answer.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, it's a call-in show. Like, you're going to talk to people who don't agree with you. That's like the point. Why would they do that just because they got a few hot comments? I mean, they could just ban you from the chat if they really wanted to. Why would they cancel a whole show over it?
Yeah. Well, okay. So there's the official story, which we'll get into in a minute.
Okay.
There's also, I think, I don't want to start speculating too much, but I don't think it's implausible to think that Wallace was there for a more or less carefully controlled calling environment where it wasn't a super open call-in show. And when he started to realize how hot it was getting and how many comments there were specifically about his background and some other things, I don't know. There's the official story that Cameron showed, which I'll show you in a second. I'm not sure that it was that or whether Wallace just chickened out would be a straightforward way of putting it.
Okay.
Not really sure. But considering I'm the one who raised most of these questions about Wallace, and that's become a thing, and he's gone on this big damage control tour after my videos came out last summer. And since I'm in the chat starting to bring these things up, he might not have wanted to talk about that. I'm not sure. But then he posts this explanation, which this is about the clumsiest thing I've ever seen. And honestly, if we got a consolation prize for this, his way of handling this was just like so deliciously disastrous that it
Okay.
almost made it all worth it. So
You didn't read the last ones. Let me read this one because we have folks that don't watch the show that just listen. So let me see what this says. Okay, this is a post from Capturing Christianity. It says today we
yeah,
had scheduled to do a call-in show with J Warner Wallace on the topic of whether facts about crime actually help support the truth of Christianity. Some information was brought to my attention last night that I haven't had a chance to properly investigate, involving prior cases he'd worked on. And on that basis, I've decided to cancel the show until I can look into the situation further. I'm not sharing additional information for the sake of privacy. These cases involve real people and real families. Note, in making this decision, I am not saying that J. Warner Wallace has indeed mishandled prior cases or that he's lied about his past or anything of the sort. I'm simply saying that I need to do my due diligence regarding this issue before I bring him back on, which I haven't had a chance to do. I think that's the responsible thing to do. Having said all this, we will continue posting clips from the shows last week and are still on the schedule to do more call-ins this week with Trent Horn Thursday and Frank Turek Friday. See you soon.
oof.
What a lineup.
When your honest backup is Frank.
Yeah. No, that's true though. He's doing shows Thursdays and Fridays? Or is it
I
just
guess so.
the same week?
Oh, this would have been Tuesday.
Yeah, so he's doing a call-in show Thursday and one Friday?
Tuesday and Friday, you mean? Or is it?
No, it says Thursday and Friday.
Oh, maybe. Oh, I see. Maybe that's, I don't know. He does them a lot. It seemed like he had them lined up almost daily for a minute.
That's crazy. That's not sustainable. I don't know how you
Yeah.
do that, but okay. Anyway,
I don't know if this is, I've never heard this anywhere else. Trent actually bailed too on his next show. So, oops, sorry, I keep bringing up comments. This, he does, I appreciate you reading that because I was going to read this part because once it starts to get to Cameron's explanations, I think it's worth reading because, yeah, Matthew, this is the way I see it too. Cameron just threw J Warner Wallace under the bus. I don't know why you would post this.
no. That's like, here's an awesome thing about, here's a little trick I've learned. Okay, folks at home, you ever think about making content? If you don't draw attention to something, a lot of things don't end up being as big of a deal as you think it is, right? Like if the show just got canceled, it was like, oh, we had to reschedule, there was a conflict or whatever, or just like, you don't have to say a whole lot. Like, I'm not saying it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, but I'm saying you don't have to do this. This definitely makes, if I was J. Warner Wallace, this would not make me feel good about being on a stream with Cameron. So I don't know what Cameron's strategy is here. But yeah, it's not super great.
And I love how this is edited. So this was like, he looked at something else, said, oh, I better adjust this, and then came up with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, this was incredibly clumsy. He did say, I'm not saying he's indeed done this, but I'm sorry. You have a guest scheduled, questions come up, just say, yeah, sorry, we've had to reschedule. Something's come up. We're going to try to do this later. Sorry for the inconvenience. You don't need to say accusations against my host have come to my attention and I need to check into.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure Wallace is going to want to get on a show with him. And I'm sorry, apologists, I'm not going to say that they're generally dishonest people. I think people get into it for a lot of different reasons, but I think there is some level of, I don't know. Most of us would probably say there's some level of grift in a lot of that community. At the very least, most people, once you become that kind of public persona in this kind of controversial space, there's going to be some dirt on you out there, or at least allegations of dirt. So what does it show other, if Cameron's hoping to have a lot of other apologists on his show, he's basically just scared them all up with this now, because if anybody else is going to be on his show, atheists show up and suggest there's any kind of dirt. Now all these other pastors and apologists think Cameron's going to throw them under the bus too. Like, dude, what were you doing? I'm kind of happy you did, but what were you doing?
Yeah. Like, again, for the call-in shows that I host, we have a vetting process for our guests. Like we do some social media research and just some background stuff. We ask people around if they've heard of people, if they've heard anything, you know? And like that helps us kind of catch stuff where it's like, oh, maybe we don't actually want this person on, right? You know, like it's just part of the process. I don't know how long Cameron's been doing his thing, but like, you know, yeah, you don't want every single person ever on the internet on. Turns out, not all press is good press.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, why now? Why figure this out after you've already made a thumbnail and have already got this stuff done? I don't know. You could say after the fact. I mean, heck, you could do an interview with him, and then if it came to your attention, you can always make a video about it later, right? Like, and then you still get views. I don't know. This is a weird way of doing things, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, think on this post, he says that they came to his attention last night. So, like, did you not think this was problematic last night? I find it very strange that stuff comes to your attention last night and you very spectacularly pull the plug on your show like 20 to 30 minutes before it's supposed to start, and everyone's already in the chat waiting and everything. And then, yeah, the optics of this are not good. You didn't say he's guilty, but anybody reads this,
You
they're going to
imply
come
that
away
there's allegations that haven't been addressed.
yeah,
You know,
they're going to
I
come they're going
mean,
to come away thinking Cameron or Wallace is kind of a iffy guy, and
yeah,
good
at the
job, Cameron.
at the very least, you've created doubt.
Yeah.
um, you know, but I'm no cold case detective, so I don't know. Maybe there's a strategy
No
to this.
cold case
Maybe
detective.
this leads to J Warner Wallace's credibility
Yeah.
somehow.
So when you hear Cameron saying, "I felt like I needed to do my due diligence,"
Hmm.
what do you think that entails?
Um, Probably actually looking into what people are saying so that you can, I mean, like, at least so you can ask somebody him questions about it, right? Like, look, I mean, if it's just allegations, why not talk straight to the horse's mouth? I don't think that's wrong to talk to somebody on a stream about their supposed allegations either, right? I mean, it depends on the context. J. Warner Wallace isn't accused of fucking murdering somebody. We're talking about like
Yeah.
sketchy apologetics stuff. I mean, I don't know. It's something that could be addressed. It's not like you have to beat around the bush about it.
Yeah.
And real quick too, Caleb Allen gave $5 and said, "Thank you for making my journey through atheism funnier." I don't know if you're talking about me or Zod or both of us, but regardless, thank you for donating. It's very nice.
Yeah, appreciate that.
And another one
And
from Punk Metal Tau, who I gave another $5 and said, "I just found out last night that Zod, Dan, and their chat are awesome. So the show's canceled today." That's really funny. Thank you for the $5. Go ahead, Zod.
you know what we really should have done is
Hmm.
had this all set to go, cancel the stream, and I
Cancel
put
it.
up this post saying things have come to my attention about objectively
Yeah. Oh no, that'd be really bad. That'd be really, really bad. Yeah, not doing that.
no, no, not at
Um,
all.
but
But
yeah,
like someone said in one of the comments, by the way, this is let me see. What it actually entails, pinning a comment telling people not to watch Zod's video. I don't know that that's exactly what was said, but that message I think kind of got out there, whether through him or through people in his comments. Uh, but someone said, like, if you think these things might be an issue, maybe let Wallace talk about it on the show
yeah,
instead of number one. You're this is only an issue if you're platforming him in an uncritical way and hiding all this stuff. So if you think these things are really concerns, ask Wallace about it on the show and let callers ask about it. That feels like a perfectly good way to deal with it, unless again you're just hoping to throw him softballs and let him sell his book or whatever. Uh,
yeah.
so,
But you're saying
but
what were you saying though, Zod? You're saying that what was Cameron's due diligence on this?
oh, so a matter of a
Oh, is this
couple hours later. A matter of a
next one
couple
here?
hours later, and I'll read this one. He posts another post. I thought it was, someone said 2 hours. I don't know. It wasn't more than 2, 3, 4 hours. I thought it was, for some reason, 4 hours enters my mind. But basically, a short number of hours later, he posts, and welcome, Fishius. First time being here. I'm glad you're happy. I've taken some time today to investigate the allegations made against J Warner Wallace. There are two main allegations being made. The first allegation is that Jim was not a cold case detective prior to becoming a Christian. This allegedly shows that he's lying about his past in order to, quote, become rich off Christian gullibility. While it's true that Jim was not officially a cold case detective until the 2000s, when the position was created, he did nevertheless work cold cases prior to that time.
Oh.
And we know and
Okay.
we know for a fact that he opened at least one known cold case prior to his converting to Christianity. This allegation is completely spurious. You little fucking weasel.
Yeah. Now we want to look and see if he was a cold case detective. Turns out he wasn't a cold case detective. But he did some cool stuff though, guys. Ooh, he opened up a cold case. Ooh, yeah, not a cold case detective though, which is like kind of his whole thing. Like I get it,
Yeah.
maybe he was later, but he wasn't at the time, which is kind of a big deal. But okay, whatever.
Yeah, somebody mentioned the pin comment. I was thinking of I was thinking of this post. Let me
Well,
go
it
look
was
what
Brian
the pin.
Stevens who gave $2, who said this is where the top pinned comment is. Thank you, Brian Stevens.
Let me see.
We'll finish. I'll finish what he said there. Okay, he said, having said that, it's true that people that introduce Jim sometimes give him a more cinematic backstory than he gives himself. But it's not his responsibility to correct these folks on the spot, especially considering the social context in which these situations occur. Uh, we'll
That's
put a
called a
pin in
call-in show, dude.
We'll put a pin in that. The second main allegation is that Jim mishandled cases he worked on. For example, it is alleged that Jim's father coerced a false confession from a suspect and that Jim has attempted to gloss over this in his retelling of the events. The problem here is that this allegedly, and I guess there's more here.
So I cut off there, and
Or
for
this.
reasons I'll talk about here in a second.
Okay.
So let me just read the pin comment, and I'd read this before. It hadn't been pinned at that time, I don't think. Also, for those curious about Prophet Azad's anti-Wallace video, don't waste your time. I did it for you. It is 90% dismissive sarcasm and 10% the concerns addressed above. JWW is squared away, and his book Cold Case Christianity is aces. Can't wait to watch the interview. So I don't know if Cameron's taking this seriously at all. Number one, I'll explain why this is not a serious community post at all. And this acting like he actually did any investigation or that he did his due diligence in the few hours between the first post and the second is just an absolute joke and makes Cameron look like a completely unserious person. And reaching the conclusion that my accusations, as he calls them, are spurious is just, I take a little bit of exception to that, or maybe a lot. I find that trashy. And then he pins this comment, just basically saying, "Oh, his comment or his video's a joke. Don't waste your time." I mean, that's fine if people post something like that. That's just a basic trash talk post. But why, in the middle of pretending to sort this out and do your due diligence to sort out accusations, is basic garbage like this what you choose to pin? It makes Cameron just look like he's really being petty and putting it behind a veneer of, researching his guest. That's my take on it anyway. But yeah.
I mean, look, I don't know why he's talking about you. Why would he, again, like it just doesn't benefit him whatsoever. If anything, he's giving more advertising for you to talk about. I mean, he's kind of, I guess, defending J Warner Wallace now in this second post after he's had time to investigate it. But here's the fact of the matter, right? Did J Warner Wallace claim he was a cold case detective in the 90s? Zod. You
Shiver
tell
said,
me.
Zod, have you ever wondered if you're a meanie?
You are a meanie, Zod. You're a meanie bobini. And now I'm going to interrogate you, Zod. Has J Warner Wallace claimed he was a cold case detective before the year 2000?
It sure seems like it. So,
Because I've never read his books. I don't give a shit enough to do it, to be honest with you. But
so I don't know that he ever has specifically said, I was a cold case detective, but he goes as far up to that line as you possibly can. And his entire narrative is based on the idea that he had significant cold case experience before he converted, and that he used that experience to investigate the claims of Jesus. I have a clip from that. So basically, I have my first video where most of that video where this FR Mitch or whatever his name is said that's 90% dismissive sarcasm. What he takes is that, which I could see that coming from a Christian, because you just don't really want to hear what I'm saying about this. Christians tend to hear things that atheists say when they break down Christian claims as sarcasm. But most of my video was just about how Wallace represented his former atheist self, and how that didn't really sound super credible, how basically he was creating an atheist boogeyman character out of his past self. And in the middle of that was this thing about whether he was a cold case detective, because it incidentally came up while I was looking into this. Well, not totally incidentally, but I got curious about it, and I did find a couple things, and I thought they were interesting questions. But he does definitely say in that first video, I mentioned the main claim, and that it doesn't look like he was one, according to the information I could find. And by the way, I've never accused him specifically of, and a lot of atheists say I go too soft on him, but I try to be very careful not to overstep and say things that I don't have all the facts about. So I can say that it looks from certain documents like he wasn't a cold case detective at a certain time, and it does look like he blows up his prior accomplishments, or his accomplishments prior to having converted to Christianity. In the second video, I go into a little more about how he seems to inflate this his situation through insinuation. And in one clip, he does very clearly say, I'd investigated similar claims as a cold case detective, or something like that. I'd investigated similar cold cases. So what he's saying there is that he could approach the investigation of Jesus as a nobody investigation, because he had all this experience doing nobody cold cases, that kind of thing. So he definitely makes it sound like he had significant cold case experience. So what Cameron's due diligence was, number one, in those few hours, he did not have any time to do any actual fact checking. There simply was not time for that. And what he says sounds so much like Wallace's existing excuses that it sounds like there was probably some dust up between him and Wallace. Number one, about canceling the show. Number two, about Cameron's post making Wallace sound really skeezy. And they probably talked afterward. Wallace probably gave Cameron his standard excuses, and Cameron posted them as if they were the result of significant investigation. But they do not, when he says he wasn't officially a cold case detective until 2000s, but we know he worked cold cases prior to that time. And when he says we know that he opened one cold case prior to his converting to Christianity, according to Wallace's own story, what he did by way of opening a cold case was looking at a file of a case his dad worked, reading the transcript, and deciding, yeah, they were right, this guy was guilty. That is not cold case investigation experience, and that is not any kind of basis for saying that you had cold case skills that you used to investigate Jesus.
Question, actually, I'm kind of thinking about this. He says I'm like, I'm Googling some stuff here too. Obviously, I've seen your videos talk about him and stuff before,
Yeah.
right? And we've both talked about him. Has he ever actually said he solved any cold cases? Because everywhere I look, it just says he's investigated. And first of all, his Wikipedia is weird, because it's like, yeah, his cases that he's investigated have been featured on TV and stuff, which is like, okay, but did you like solve it though? Like, why would I like, if he hasn't actually solved anything, why do I care? I've investigated cold cases. Ooh, look at me. I've looked up some cold cases on the internet and on
So
Wikipedia. I guess I'm an investigator now too, Zod. What's up?
this is, to be fair, many of the cases he was involved in were solved. The the commendation from the city of Torrance commending him for his police career, whatever that was, they do show either that one says which cases were solved or not, or I, in the process of getting ready for that video, I had looked it up and found which ones were solved or not, and I actually list which ones from which dates were solved and which ones were still open.
Okay.
The bigger question was, he certainly wasn't flying solo on this, and I don't even know if he was the lead detective. So he's a little vague with his wording about what he was involved in, what he worked on, what he specifically solved. But what it sounds like is, I can't find anywhere in his history that he actually went to he ever got a criminology degree. He had a degree in, I think, architecture or something like that. And
well, that, I mean, I if he's actually done work though, I mean,
but and again, this is a little speculative. I'm not saying he's not a good detective or anything. I don't know anything about that. But what I'm saying is, it sounds like, and this is from things he said in interviews, his main talent was like putting together things visually and presenting for an audience. So it sounds like his main role was creating visual presentations for the jury. That, I'm not saying that's not a substantial part of solving the case and getting a conviction. I'm just saying that his role might have been limited, and I don't know how much he actually solved the cases.
I don't know. I would hope nobody's going solo on these things. It's not like Ted Kaczynski at the FBI and it's just like one guy's doing all the work here, right? Can I tell you something funny I just found though? Did you know he has a book called God's Crime Scene?
Yeah.
I didn't know. Did you talk about this?
No.
This is a very funny description. There are 4 ways to die, and only one of them requires an intruder. Suicides, accidental, and natural deaths can occur without any evidence from outside the room, but murders typically involve suspects external to the crime scene. If there's evidence of an outside intruder, homicide detectives have to prepare for a chase. Intruders turn death scenes into crime scenes. Yeah, and then it says, with the expertise of cold case detective J Warner examines 8 critical pieces of evidence in the crime scene of the universe to determine if they point to a divine intruder. If you have ever wondered if something or someone outside the natural realm created the universe and everything in it, this is the case for you. Okay, bud. So now you're investigating the whole goddamn universe. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to listen to the cosmologists, and the astronomers on that one, and maybe not fucking cold case detectives on whether or not there's divine intruders. Man, cold case detectives can really do anything, Zod. That's kind of amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. If he hadn't stepped far enough out of his lane by acting like being a cold case detective, let him investigate ancient
man, he really milks that shit, huh? That's, man. Okay.
Yeah. I was aware of the title of that book, but honestly, I get really bored with Wallace's work, because what that illustrates is all he does is takes the language of crime scene investigation or cold case investigation and stories about them, be they real or not. And I'm not saying he lies when they're not real. I think sometimes he tells them the hypothetical. He just attaches that to arguments for God that have already been floating around churches for years, and he just weaves them together into a story. And it couldn't be more transparent than with God's crime scene. Yeah. Like, I think it's already pretty obvious with the cold case Christianity thing. But by the time you're connecting it to like the origins of this guy doesn't have a fucking clue about the origin of the universe or science or evolution. Like, he's so far out of his depth by that point. It becomes really clear he's just using police work as an analogy for existing apologetics. And I just find that really boring and annoying.
I wonder what he would think if, let's say I was a cosmologist and I was like, the cosmology of crime scenes. My name is Edgar J. physicist. And listen, every crime scene is like a miniature universe. And if we understand the physics of that miniature universe, we can solve cases together. Join me as we do physics and we solve cold cases. Like, you think he'd be down for that? Something tells me he might think they're stepping on his turf a little bit.
Just as space-time ripples out in waves from the initial singularity, so hints of what happened ripple out from the initial point of the crime.
Yeah,
so using my knowledge of astrophysics, that's how asinine this all is.
Yeah, that's awesome. You can do anything with that. That's great.
Yeah, and K.N. Young, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, he uses forensic statement analysis, which is regarded as junk science by pretty much everybody but J Warner Wallace. I wouldn't say everybody but him. Because I don't think there is a lot of unified methodology within police work in the United States. There are a lot of departments that use it, but a lot of academics and even a lot of police officers do think that it is very iffy, if not outright pseudoscience. So I really didn't want to go too far down the road with the Wallace's credibility thing. Part of me is starting to get a little annoyed by it because I never really wanted to park on like that kind of gotcha with somebody.
Yeah,
I think it is a valid point. People have a lot of opinions about it. Even within our own camp, there are people who think that it's just kind of a pointless thing and talk about the actual arguments of how he approaches scripture. I think it is worth bringing up because he does use that to inflate his own personal credibility. And most of his arguments are simply based on that backstory. And so I think it's worth deflating that a little bit. Those videos got smaller views even than most of my average videos on my channel. They are going to have a small niche audience. So I don't think these things are going to go out there and I'm going to dethrone Wallace or anything like that. I think the average Christian in his audiences never know what's going to happen. It's probably not going to affect his book sales or anything like that. But I think it is worth people with a skeptical mind or people who are actually exploring. If they come and see that, it gives them this little seed of doubt, which I think is valid. So all that stuff set aside, though, what really annoys me is that Cameron, obviously without having done any research into this, and I think, in my personal opinion, it sounds like he did nothing but have a conversation with Wallace. He just repeated Wallace's existing excuse verbatim and act like my accusations are spurious just because Wallace supposedly did some unofficial cold case work. Wallace did not do, according to what I could find, Wallace did not do any cold case work prior to his conversion, except opening up his dad's old case and reading it and deciding, yeah, they had this right. If you think that gives somebody a good reason to represent themselves as having extensive experience in no-body homicide investigations, that's up to you. I mean, anybody can split hairs and say, well, he technically blah, 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 blah. But like you said about the Bible contradictions, look at that as a human being. Does that story warrant saying that you walked into a church and approached the question of Jesus as somebody with all this extensive, cold case detective work? I don't think it does. Even if you think there's room to split hairs there and I'm wrong, calling that a spurious accusation, I just take exception to that. So Cameron, if you're watching, go fuck yourself. That was uncalled for. I mean, I'm sorry. A lot of things I can just take as a difference of opinion. But when you call something I brought up spurious, I doubt he's even watched my videos. I don't think I ever made a concrete stated accusation against Wallace. I said, here's what I found. Here's what it looks like. And many times I said, here's where there's reason for doubt and where we might have questions about it. And at the end of my videos, I said, it could be anything. At the end of my second video, I said, Wallace, I don't know if I said if you're watching this, but I would welcome Wallace to come forward with all this information. I could be wrong, but here's what it looks like. And so yeah. I take what Cameron said as a indirectly stated attack on my credibility and jumping to conclusions without having done any due diligence himself. And I don't like that.
Yeah. And here's the thing. He could, whether he's a real cold case detective or not, I don't care. I seriously don't. It doesn't matter. It's just an argument from authority. I don't particularly care about J Warner Wallace's opinion over my grandmother's. Like, it all comes down to the arguments. Are the arguments good? Anybody should be able to look at that, not just cold case detectives. If your expertise can help you suss out the arguments for this stuff, then sure. But you're not a historian. Like you're not like looking at ancient events when you're doing cold case detective. You're looking at stuff that's happened presumably within the last few decades, not thousands of years. And
Yeah.
you're not like examining ancient scriptures from other languages. Like it's foolishness. It's ridiculous. If you think that J Warner Wallace somehow is more qualified to talk about this stuff than I am, or Zod is, I have a bridge to sell you, right? At least
Yeah.
we can read stuff and come to our own conclusions about things. You really don't have to like have that kind of advanced skill set to figure some of this stuff out. But I find it to be sophistry, honestly.
Yeah. J. Warner Wallace could have been able to kick Sherlock Holmes's ass as a detective from the time he was a newborn baby, and that still would have nothing to do with investigating ancient texts and determining anything about first century history. It's completely unrelated. I don't know. You can say that they're firsthand accounts. How do you even know they're firsthand accounts? How do you know anything about them when you don't understand anything about the original language or the genres or styles they're written in?
Yeah,
It's
I mean, like real academics who actually spent their lives studying this stuff have a lot of opinions on this that don't match up with J. Warner Wallace. So good that he solved some cold cases, I guess. I don't care about his opinions on ancient Semitic texts
yeah.
or coin texts, regarding the authenticity of, I don't know, the legitimacy of Christianity. It's outside the scope. I mean, yeah, he could have some good points. Let's just talk about that. But yeah, the fact is too, right? Whether you agree with his background or not, it's a little sketchy. Like it's never been super clear exactly his role in everything. And that's purely on him. As someone who is a cold case detective, you'd think you'd be able to give a timeline of events pretty fucking clearly and be able to back that shit up. But there seems to always be questions about this stuff that don't seem to
Yeah.
be directly answered. So I don't know what's up with that.
While Wallace could easily come out with the dates of every case he'd worked, with the his level of involvement in it, all that kind of stuff. He could come out with all that stuff. I don't think he wants to, because I don't think it really. I think this really hazy story about how he vaguely worked this then and that then or
Or
whatever.
I mean, at least the cases he's already been on TV talking about, right? Like he's certainly not shy about it in some
Yeah.
ways. Look at his Wikipedia; it's all about how he's been in part of all these investigations and stuff. Like, all right,
Well,
cool beans.
that's where this thing about I'm not going to go into details. I think on his previous community post, I'm not going to go into details because these cases involve real people. Horse shit. All these cases have been on TV. Like all these people's names are in a matter of public record. Nobody's going
Yeah,
to know more about this because you talk about it.
yeah. He's talked about the cases he's been on. So you know
Yeah.
that's how you verify someone's credibility. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, I mean, anyway, it's a moot point at this point. Real quickly, Arrow Onion Belly gave $2, who said we decided in chat that we're cold cuts ingesters, which is pretty funny. I do like that. And did you read this one earlier, Jay? From oh no, yeah, we did
Yeah.
read that one
Yeah.
from Can. Yeah, thank you for
So I want to get off this pretty
that.
soon. But one thing I want to point out here too. He said this is written like such a carefully crafted. I wouldn't be surprised if Wallace had written this or at least walked Cameron through it. It's having said that, it's true that people that introduce Jim sometimes give him a more cinematic backstory than he gives himself. In other words, they say things that are directly untrue about his story, which I've shown that in my video. But it's not his responsibility to correct these folks on the spot, especially I'm sorry, you're I don't know. I used to be an English teacher. If I appeared on a show and somebody said, when he first became an atheist, Prophet Azad had spent decades as a high level professor of literature at blah 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 blah. I'd be like, pump the brakes there, dude. Like, is it my responsibility? I kind of think so, but I think that's kind of a petty question anyway. Like, wouldn't you just think you're kind of supposed to do that? Or wouldn't it be the honest thing to do? Sit there and listen to people uh, say that you did things you hadn't done at that point in your life. Like Elisa Childers just sat there and said, "Cold case detective J. Warner Wallace had doubts, or was a hardened atheist, but then blah 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 blah." And then he sat there in an interview with her, didn't say it. And this happens over and over and over and over again. And he just lets these people say things. There's no correction. There's no clarification. Uh, yeah, I think that's a complete cop out. I think Cameron would have been better off just leaving that out there because that sounds so stupid. He didn't technically have to say that they were wrong when they told.
Yeah. Yeah. It's poor argument for sure. But real quickly, another $2 donation from Connor Runda, who said, "Good to catch you guys live." And I don't know what this says. Sliente? Sliente, friends? I don't even know what language that is. Do you know
I don't
this?
either. I
I
don't.
don't. Connor, tell me what language this is and also how to say it, and then I'll say it properly. But yeah, I think you've made your case. I think you've made the
Yeah.
cold case for Zod here, Zod. So I'm hearing you out. Um, whether or not J Warner Wallace is a credible dude or not shouldn't have anything to do with your video. So I don't know why he decided to bring it up in like a community post. That seems just really bizarre. It's not like you're the only person who's ever talked about J Warner Wallace either. But yeah, it's just not super professional, I guess. I don't know what the
Yeah.
plan was. I don't know what he was thinking, but okay.
And it feels good to air this out. And you like when somebody calls, and essentially, I would say calls my integrity into question with this kind of thing. Uh, I do want to like say my piece about it, but I don't need to be residing in the comments to that post because it's obnoxious after a while. So much nitpicking over every little thing. So that's that story. Uh, anything else you have to say?
No,
We already spent quite a bit more time on this than I expected to.
yeah. I think Cameron should invite me on his show, if he really wants to hear skeptical opinions. I'd probably do it too. Uh, he gets some clout from it. I get some entertainment. I'd probably be on there. So Cameron, if you're watching, let me talk to you. I'll tell you about my own cold case skills. I'll tell you about all the cases I've looked into that have gone cold. You know. So
It's Irish for cheers, by the way.
oh, thank you for the $5, Connor. Irish for
Yeah, thank
cheers.
you.
Slanche or slanche is how I usually hear it. That's interesting.
I don't usually hear it at all, so thank you. So that took almost a full hour. I'm sorry, guys, if that was a lot, but I thought that could have run anywhere from like, half hour to 40 minutes or something, but it became a thing. So there we are.
There we are.
There we are.
There we
So
are.
this is going to be quite a pivot.
Mm-hmm.
We went from all that to, oh, by the way, I do want to say one thing. At the bottom of that community post, he brings up some issues raised by Michael Beverly. He's another skeptical YouTuber, and he's made a 3-hour video questioning Wallace's story as well and bringing up more issues and stuff than I have. He got something apparently from the city of Torrance that actually showed that Wallace might not have even been a detective at that time and was just like a robbery detective or something. Whole other thing. But the second half of that is bringing up questions about whether Wallace mishandled the case and whether his dad had maybe mishandled the case originally. I'm really not comfortable getting into that kind of territory. I think it's a little speculative, especially considering the weight of it. If Michael, I'm not getting on Michael for doing that. If he feels comfortable with that, good for you. I'm not, that's outside my comfort level though, personally. But that's what that all is. And Michael was heavily involved in this. And he go watch his video if you're curious. You can make your own decisions about some of the stuff he said. But he went into a lot more depth than I did and had a lot of interesting things to say. And he did a ton of work collecting a lot of Wallace's statements, including Wallace said that the only reason they were on Dateline is not because they were doing great police work, but because they were down the road from Burbank Studios, and that's the only reason that they were on the show so much. He said that and laughed about it and everything.
It's also I'm sorry, it's weird to be so proud about some of this stuff, I guess. Like I'm just seeing all over the place how all of the cases he's investigated have been in the news and stuff. We're talking about murdered people. Like I hope that you're taking your job seriously and not as like a publicity stunt to talk about how fucking awesome you are. Like I'm sorry, that's kind of fucking gross, to be honest. There's lots of people that do legal work and do investigative work every day that don't talk about it like this. That either keep that shit to themselves or talk about it with the respect that it deserves, and not talk about how it just furthers your career of how awesome you are. And I've never seen personally, and I've only seen excerpts of what other people say, but I've never really heard J Warner Wallace talk about, like, I don't know, the severity of the things that he's looked into, more just like how cool it is that he's a detective. And
Yeah,
it's so neat, guys. I've looked into these cases.
It's intangible, but he definitely has an air of self-promotion about himself, and he carried that over into his apologetics. Kip Davis, welcome, by the way. I have a friend who is a former LA County detective. He's gathering information about Wallace from former colleagues, so might be interested to see what comes of that.
There you go.
I'm a little burnt out on the catching people and doing the gotcha and all that stuff. I've gone as far down that path as I want to go. I find that thing, it's easy. I think Samantha Bee did something about that, about how easy it is to get into a mindset of wanting to catch people, whether it's in plagiarism or whatever. And it's a little bit addicting, but it also gets a little exhausting. And it's hard to judge what your own motivations are at some point. So I think there was some good in finding out what I did and opening up that conversation. On the other hand, it's not something I'm interested enough, for one, that I want to park on it for a long time. If people want to keep doing investigation of that, I feel like there are more relevant things I could talk about as a YouTuber that speak more to the experience of the average doubter and skeptic. I'm also not sure that if I kept chasing after that my motivations would stay what I want them to be. So I have kind of cooled off on my interest in this. People still bring stuff to me. But that's all cool. I have no issue with you. And by the way, I have no issue with Michael Beverly or whatever he's doing on his channel. There are things that are outside my comfort level. What to say specifically, I'm not saying he's out of line, but so yeah, it's all cool. But I'm not really. I don't know. I'm souring on this whole thing a little bit. And there are some moments where I wonder if that was something I'm happy that I'd done.
Well, Zod, it's okay, because you can be reflective about it. You can talk about it. And you know what? Shout outs to you of doing it here on a live stream, because that's more than what Cameron did. You could have just left it at a community post, I guess, and 2 hours later done a little investigating and blamed other people instead of yourself for.
It turns out Dan's actually not all that bad.
Oh,
the accusations against him are completely spurious.
Yeah. But I actually think it's good, because you're out here in a public forum, and yeah, maybe, I mean, I think everybody has said things on the internet that they've regretted at one point or another. So at least you're able to acknowledge the mistakes you've made. I don't see an apology from Cameron for anything ever. Not saying that he necessarily needs to apologize, but more so like, look, it's on him if there's allegations that he hasn't looked into, and then after looking into it saying, oh, it's actually no big deal. I don't know. I don't buy that. I really don't. So anyway, but we've talked about this for long enough. Let's move on.
I do want to reinforce, I didn't want to do a drama stream, and this turned into a longer thing than I wanted to, but I feel like everything we aired out was worthwhile. even if we maybe parked a little too long on his background. But let's cleanse our palate with
let's cleanse the palate.
The Great Scott. For those of you who have seen the thumbnail, I actually told Dan not to look at this thumbnail before I put it up, because this is a big show and tell episode. In the background behind Cameron and Wallace, there is a big magician looking guy. And this is a guy who actually does magic for Jesus. So I want to tell a very brief background on this before I get into the clip. I was watching a video by, I'm forgetting his name. But basically, he's a comedian who does YouTube videos talking about bad movies. And he often does, Curtis Connor. He's a pretty big guy. Some of you probably heard of him. But he did one about something called The Reconciler, which is a Christian version of Saw, where basically God locks people in rooms until they sort out their personal differences and repent. But
okay, that sounds terrifying, but all right.
In this video, he brings up all these comments on the IMDb page about how just terrible the movie is. But there was one that said, and I just want to blow through this fast. It says, gripping from minute one. I have been a movie buff for many years. I've also been a fan of the faith theme genre. But what I've most often believed, basically, he said that most faith films are behind the times. A lot of them are good, but they take a little while to get into. And he says, this film, on the other hand, gives you a reason to watch and stay with the movie from the moment it opens. It's not just a message in the story. It's not just a message in the story is a tool. There is an actual story. This guy's writing's pretty bad. Not bad for a director and actor who decided to write together for the first time. This is by someone called the Great Scott Magician. Turns out this is one of the writers of the movie.
Man. Oh, no.
So, the guy, I'm spacing on his name again, the comedian. He actually traced that guy back and found out that he actually was connected to the the movie. And so I looked up his channel, which I discovered through that guy's video, and he does Christian magic. And so I thought it'd be a little bit of fun just to show you that, just because you got such a kick out of the rope guy last week. Yes. I thought this guy's presentation and everything felt very much like the rope guy. So let's watch a little bit of him if you'd like.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. I present you the Great Scott. Now, this is called the Great Scott Promo. So this is his series of promotional videos to sell himself to churches as a traveling entertainer or whatever. This is part 1 of 5 promo videos. We're not going to watch them all.
Greetings, my name is Scott Galbraith, but for many years people have known me as the Great Scott. I am, for all intents and purposes, a magician, but I'm a little different than most magicians, because I am a magic man of God. I've been a student of magic ever since I was 6, but when I was about 13, I accepted Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior. Ironically, it was at the performance of a Christian magician. In 1 Peter...
This is the worst camera angle
yeah.
you could have possibly picked to do this. You take your time when you're setting up your shots for these, okay? This is recorded for video, for ostensibly thousands of people to see. Why? Why this? Why this angle? This is not, I don't feel comfortable. He doesn't look comfortable. Nobody's comfortable in this situation. Why? This is not good. No, not a great start so far, Zod.
Drew Harrison says he looks exactly like I would have described him before seeing Yeah, maybe back the camera up a little bit from your face, have something interesting in the background, mic yourself. There's all kinds of things you could do since this is, your Arrow, Onion Bella, that dating profile angle is murdering me.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
4:10, we're told this. Each of you received a spiritual gift. God has shown you his grace in giving.
Why couldn't you have rehearsed this? Why are you looking up at the script? Just take your time. Seriously, make this is for you. This is supposed to be advertising you. This is not good present. You're a magician. I'm just telling you this because stage presence is kind of an important thing for you, right? Like,
Yeah.
you must know this doesn't look the best.
I don't think
know.
he does, though.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
You different gifts, and you are like servants who are responsible for using God's gifts. So be good servants and use your gifts to serve each other. Verse 11. Anyone who speaks...
Or, you know what? There's a reason why newscasters, like, have screens in front of them. Okay? So, like, they can look, it's the illusion that they're looking right at the camera. Maybe you should invest, in that technology or something, a teleprompter or anything, because this is not great. Maybe the budget obviously wasn't there. It all went into that pink shirt and whatever the hell he's wearing there. So yeah, I see that. But anyway, this is
his opening one too. Like this is the opening of his promo series, and he just sits there with his face like 2 inches from the camera reading the Bible. That's what
it's.
And he doesn't just read one thing real quick, expound upon it, and do a trick. He's like, and now verse 11.
He goes on to other verses. That's not good presentation. I'm already bored. Like, what's happening? I don't know. This is very interesting videos.
should speak words from God. The person who serves should serve with the strength that God gives. You should do all these things so that in everything God will be praised. Through Jesus Christ, power and glory belong to him forever and ever. Amen. I read that from the International Children's Version. Magic is a wonderful ministry tool to use for kids.
The what? The International Children's what?
Version.
I know, but that's not what that sounded like. What?
Let's listen to it again.
I read that from the International Children's Version. Magic is a wonderful...
I'm just saying you could have just done another take. You know? It's not live. You could have just done another take. I mean, why also give the version of the Bible? That's just... The flow is interrupted.
Yeah.
Why am I giving advice to an image on the screen? Doesn't matter.
But you don't really want to do too many takes, because this is... You know how in... what is it? Is it Goodfellas where like the camera follows the people in one shot? This is like that. He's going for that, because notice there's no cuts.
You're doing a Goodfellas thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
right.
I don't know if you noticed it, but this is all one shot. This is like no cuts here.
This is a Scorsese directed piece. I think Martin Scorsese actually worked on this.
Kids as well as grown-ups. Today, we are broadcasting from my apartment where a Christian film called Luke the 11th just wrapped shooting, directed by my good friend Brian Stewart. Now, Brian and some of his family and friends have agreed to graciously stick around today to help me shoot this.
Oh my God, they're directing you right now? Holy shit.
No, they just got done directing a movie.
I know, but they're helping him out now.
Yeah.
Right?
So they're just... As long as you're here, why don't you shoot me? Obviously, without any sound equipment or actual cameras.
Why don't we just stick a camera right underneath your chin, and you can just record everything in one take? That seems like a really good idea. Well, if this is the quality of this, I'm afraid to see what the movie is like. Yeah. It's probably not that much.
Well,
better.
I tried to find the movie. I couldn't find the movie anywhere. I think he said Luke the 11th. The director, you're going to see him in the next promo shot.
Oh, great.
The director is there, like not in the next anyway.
Yeah,
but the director is actually the one who hosted these videos along with like a bunch of like random, I don't know, cinematography things and stuff.
Video and show you some of the things that I have to offer if you want to bring me to your church or to your event. I'll be covering 4 basic aspects of what I do. We hope that you will enjoy it. Greetings.
So Dan, we're not Christians, but if you were, how big a hurry would you be in to bring this guy to your church?
I think he needs to pay me to come do a performance at whatever venue I've got. You know what I mean? Like, I think he owes me time just for making me watch this. Man, God.
Arrow onion belly. The color of his shirt is puke, and this man shouldn't be allowed near children. I used to make magic videos, and you don't want edits during the trick, but you can have plenty before. Help, I'm dead.
It's not puke, it's puce.
Okay. I didn't mispronounce that on purpose.
Oh, okay. Well, puce is a real color. I'm just saying. That's the thing.
Erica, Zadanza is the collab I never knew I needed. Thank you very much.
That's right. You never knew it, but we give it to you anyway. Just like this man, I never knew I needed this man to do magic tricks for me, but I guess I'm about to find out why. Maybe regrettably so. I don't know. We'll see.
All right. You want to see Reel 2 where he actually does some tricks?
Reel 2, let's get to it. I'm prepared to be amazed. Get my mind blown. You know?
All right. Presenting the Great Scott clip 2. Volunteer participation.
No. Oh no. Are we allowed? We're not. Wait, we can't show porn on YouTube, Zod. Why are you showing me a porn intro right now? What's happening?
Greetings, this is the Great Scott once again, and I am here with one of the crew members of Luke the...
What is this angle? They moved it again. You couldn't have stacked it on some books or something? What is this? Bro, come on.
Like, I'm not gonna...
Why is my lighting better than this?
And I'm not gonna shame anybody for any aspect of their appearance. I haven't been in the best shape my whole life. But I wouldn't necessarily use certain angles to film myself. Like,
no, this is a promo video. You're supposed to be excited, supposed to be into it. I get it. It's low budget, but like, I mean, did you not look at this and be like, hey, maybe we should change this? Like, this is for your career, my man. I don't know.
You're a performing magician. Do you not like have any props or staging things? Like, you could put something. Is your apartment that bare to begin with?
Yeah, I don't know. Arrow Onion Belly gave $2 and said Zadanza Atheist Magic Ministry when? I would love that. Maybe we should learn some tricks so we could perform it for our viewers. I'm sure they'd love that.
My son actually used to be pretty good at magic. I was curious what he'd think about these tricks.
11th, what is your name, sir?
My name is Jason.
Jason what?
Jason Bourne.
Oh, I've seen your movies. It's a pleasure to meet you. Let's give Jason a nice round of applause, please. Thank you very much. Yeah.
What did he say? Jason Bourne?
Yeah.
He's making a Jason Bourne joke?
They're being funny together, apparently.
What the fuck is this, son? Who does this? Also, let's talk about the chain on this man. My goodness. What's happening over here? That's a long chain, my man. That's interesting.
This is basically like uncomfortable small town pastor jokes. Like,
when was this filmed?
I don't recall.
Do you know?
I don't know if I even knew.
Okay, this is
it looks old based on a lot of this.
But he's also making Jason Bourne jokes. I don't know. Go ahead.
The angle of this video makes me feel like I'm a small child. I'm in danger.
Thank you, Aliyashana Silverbow for the $5. If I said your name wrong,
long enough,
please let me know. But yeah.
We have a miniature audience with us today. Thank you very much, both of you. That was wonderful. Okay, now here's what we're going to do.
Oh, he got the cameraman to clap for him? What is this? What is this? I didn't realize I was going to be a fucking cinema snob over here, but like, come on, man. Like, do something with this. This is driving me crazy.
As a magician, here is a question that I get asked constantly. Scott, are you a skeptic? And the truth is I am a skeptic. I'm one of the first people to try to guess this.
Something tells me he doesn't actually get asked about that a whole lot. Something tells me he maybe got asked like once and turned that into a bit. But anyway.
Surprise into a movie.
And real quick.
Oh, sorry.
And I get asked.
He says he's a skeptic. Do you have any clue where this might be going?
I'm sensing bit territory. I'm sensing a bit is about to occur, an unfunny, unjustified bit. So
constantly, Scott, are you a skeptic? And the truth is, I am a skeptic. I'm one of the first people to try to guess the surprise ending to a movie. I'm one of the first people to figure out how another magician does a trick. Okay? So people have thrown back in my face, well, Scott, if you are a skeptic, do you believe that stories can be blown out of proportion? And the truth is, they can. So people have tried to convince me that what is in this fabulous book right here is nothing but a bunch of stories. But the truth is, it is my skepticism that will not allow me to...
Yeah.
I just like this comment. That was my first question when I saw him on screen in that bow tie and that shirt. I was like, Scott, are you you skeptic?
Yeah, that was what I thought too. I look at this guy and I'm like, that guy wants to know the ending of every movie he sees.
He may be no
Yeah.
cold case detective.
He's no
to
cold
dismiss it.
case
Let me
detective.
give you an example. Right here we have Isaiah 9 verse 6. And this is a verse that has been written into more Christmas songs than you can shake a stick at. You'll probably recognize it. A child will be born to us. God will give a son to us. He will be responsible for leading the people. His name will be Wonderful, Counselor, Powerful God, Father who lives forever, Prince of Peace. Power and peace will be in his kingdom. He will continue to grow and rule on David's throne.
Anyway, we're getting a little short from time. He's going to finish reading this verse. He's going to do a bunch of magic, some basic magic tricks with cards, which I want to skip over. He does have, I'll just show you real quick. He has this huge prop card.
Not giant novelty jumbo cards.
Yeah.
Zod.
And he actually has every card the guy picks, he has a card that's half of that. So the guy picks a 7, he actually has a 3.5 card. Ha ha ha.
Oh my God. Kill me. Kill me now.
All right, so we got to watch the end of this though.
Okay, but real quick, I Heart Dogs said super sticker and gave $5. Is that supposed to be a GIF or an actual sticker? And it just says super sticker in the chat. I'm not actually sure.
I'm not sure
because the text is bolded. But yes, thank you, I Heart Dogs.
Oh, wait a minute. You have an odd number there, right?
Yes.
For odd numbers, you're supposed to multiply by 2, not divide by 2. What would you have gotten if you had multiplied that?
14.
That's right. Hey.
See, basically, for this whole thing, he's just milking the fact that he got the guy to pick one card, which is a really basic card trick. And now he's just like doing all these little things with big prop cards after that. It's the trick happened like a long time ago, and now he's just milking it.
Okay, that's good to know.
Now, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, what does this prove? Well, first of all, let's review here. How many cards are in a pack of cards, Jason?
52.
52, okay. And you picked 2 different ones, and I had to do 2 different... Well, I had to do the same math problem twice, and I ended up with all of the results here.
Right.
What if I stood here and said, this was a lucky guess? Would you buy that?
No.
I don't think so.
Okay,
Okay, because the odds of me getting all the guesses right, you can't possibly accept that, right?
Right.
It's too far-fetched to be a coincidence. I had to have had this rigged somehow, right? I can't tell you how, but obviously I somehow knew that you were going to pick those cards, right?
Right.
Right. And I can't accept that all the prophecies that we see in Isaiah and all the other Old Testament books is a coincidence.
The prophecy guy.
The prophecies are too perfect. The
He's a
idea that
prophecy
one man could
guy.
fulfill all those prophecies, most of which he fulfilled within the last 12 hours of his life, I can't accept that as a coincidence. The only explanation is Jesus Christ had to be who he said he was.
Wow.
As a skeptic,
Wow.
I can only conclude.
I can
that
only
Jesus-
conclude. Yeah. I don't believe in coincidences. That's why I think that this was all purposely done on purpose. This is all part of the plan.
The card trick analogy isn't great here because I actually just left a flippant comment on the video about it. But like, the whole point of a card trick is that you can't see when you're drawing their card, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't look. That's a fundamental thing about doing magic.
Sure.
The people who, even assuming that Jesus fulfilled, as portrayed in the stories, fulfilled Isaiah prophecies in just spectacular ways, which he did not. You cannot read Isaiah and predict Jesus. It only works after the fact. We know all that stuff. But even if they were brilliant prophecies, the people who wrote the New Testament absolutely had access to Isaiah and everything else in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
So they basically did the literary version of like looking through the deck and picking your card out after the fact. Like seriously, you're
That's a good way to
skeptic and
put
that's
it.
what you're amazed by.
Yeah. Oh man, these people who had access to this literature of prophecies wrote in such a way that it would fulfill these prophecies. It must be real. Can't be a skeptic about that. No siree.
If prophecies are perfect, then this man's a Thanks, Onion Valley. All right, you want to see? We're almost at the end, but you want to see a brief glimpse of one more?
Sure.
Where he brings up more people
Why not?
up front.
Fuck it.
He actually brings up the director of Luke the 11th. No, I
Oh.
blurred out a lot of this one.
Okay.
Oops. Because it has one child on it and one person who looks like they might be a child, and I don't want to show them on the thing.
There it is. There's that music again. Makes me nervous, Sod. I don't like it. I don't like the phrase group participation
well, I'm here with a couple
either.
of volunteers.
I showed the wrong one.
Oh no, that's not the right one. There's a kid in there. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, before you didn't blur it out though. Okay, yeah, I see.
Okay, here we go. I actually clicked the wrong file.
Help
There
me
we
with
go.
a card trick that actually bends a couple of the rules of card magic. But like all my tricks, this has a scripture verse that goes with it.
Miranda, even J Warner Wallace's detective skills could see through this guy's
Yeah.
tricks.
I'm no cold case detective, but something tells me this ain't real. Something tells me there's a trick to this.
So that guy sitting there that you can see, he's the director of the movie that just finished shooting in this guy's apartment for some reason.
Yeah.
Blurred is a young lady who I don't know if she's an adult or not. She was one of the stars of the film, and then there's a little kid who is this guy's son. I just didn't want to show them, which I did on accident briefly. But
The scripture verse is in John chapter 14, beginning with verse 5.
so once
Now,
more, I'd
in
like
my
to
last
welcome a
topic
magic
lesson, I
actress for
mentioned
riveting Bible
that I
verses.
truly believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah. Well, if he is, well then what does that mean? Well, it tells us right here in John 14. Thomas said to Jesus, Lord, we don't
All right, just real quick, try to watch the person sitting there as much as you can. All the people he brings up with him just look so uncomfortable the whole
know
time.
where you are going, so how can we know the way? And Jesus answered, I am the way, I am the truth and the life. The only way to the Father is through me. If you really knew me, then you would know my Father too. But now you do know him, and you have seen him. It's pretty clear cut. The only way to God is through Jesus Christ. And I want to do a quick illustration of that using these three fine people and this deck of cards.
Oh no.
So I'm fading out and back in.
I cannot make the two cards that
Okay. So basically what happened is he took 20 cards and had the dad sit on them, and he made a sit on it joke. And then he had the son, who's blurred, sit on some other cards, and then the trick was that the cards went from one person to the other.
Sean had go back to Brian, which means it's a
And so now he's saying that, sorry, yeah, they all look like they want to go home. They kind of do. So he said the cards went from the dad to the son, and now he's saying for some reason, I don't know why, the cards can't go back. So this is the point he makes.
one-way thing, which means if I wanted all 12 cards that were originally given to Brian, there would be no way for me to get the 2 extra without going to Sean. Is that right? Right. Which just goes to prove, if you want everything the Father has to offer, you need to know the Son.
So that's his analogy.
What?
Let
Well,
me
because
catch you up.
it went from the son to the dad with the card trick.
Yeah. He told the dad to sit on one stack of cards, the son to sit on another stack of cards, and then supposedly some of the cards went from the dad to the son. But he said they can't go back for some reason. I don't know
All
why.
right. Okay.
And he goes,
all right.
because of
all
that,
right,
you can only
okay.
go to the Father through the Son.
Okay. All right. Well, that was not really magic. That was more you explaining to me the magic trick a guy used to explain theological concepts in his apartment with a guy who made a movie there. That's what we just saw, I think.
Yeah, I was planning on having more time for this because I didn't know we were going to talk about the Cameron and Wallace thing so much. But there's one more video where he does a cup and ball trick to like illustrate sin. We don't have time to go into all that.
Oh no.
Maybe we'll pull it out for an extra thing sometime.
Maybe another time. I'm sure there's like we could probably do a whole episode just dedicated to Christian magicians.
Yeah.
I feel like there's some territory there we could look at.
Oh,
but...
and if you go to that video, this thing he put riveting from minute 1 to promote his own video. There's a lot of people who comment on that video saying this is riveting from minute 1.
That's pretty good.
Anyway,
that's pretty good. We should hire that guy to do magic tricks for Sedanza. You think he's still in the business? You think we could get him on?
That would be interesting. Oh my God.
That's a Patreon
Drew.
goal right there. We raise some money to you pay this man's fees. Actually, he needs to pay us. Seriously.
Yeah.
I still believe that, but anyway.
Anyway, that's
man.
pretty much our show for tonight. We talked about some drama. We mentioned the news from today. I showed Dan a magician, which we had to rush through a little faster than I'd wanted to. Dan, what's your take? I want you to do the closing line based on whatever your takeaway from today was.
Well, I'm no cold case detective, but I would say that it's going to take more than a cheesy dad joke disguised as a magic trick, or really vice versa, to convince me that Jesus Christ of Nazareth is the Messiah. So that's my thoughts, son.
All right. I'm going to steal mine from YouTube Punk. My final thought is spurious.
Spurious is also pretty good. Folks, remember to
right.
like and subscribe and comment below. Tell us what you liked, what you didn't like. And until next time, we're signing off.
Have a good night, everybody.
Voy a cantar esta canción con mucho cariño de mi corazón a la República Dominicana, la casa del merengue y la casa de la bachata. Voy a cantar esta canción con mucho cariño de mi corazón a la República Dominicana, la casa del merengue y la casa de la bachata. La, 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 la casa del merengue. La, 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 y la casa de la bachata. Música, música, música.